All right, my friends, welcome back. Now let's talk about references. And so this is the last part of what we set out to do in this particular lesson. So references, as you may know, is where you list all the works that you cited in the body of your paper. And you create this references list at the end of your paper. And here are some of the information that you need to have in order to do your references list. Psych! You hopefully caught that. Otherwise, please drink a little bit more coffee before continuing. All right, so what do references lists look like? So this is an example of what a references list might look like, and this follows the body of your paper. Some of the things to know about the references list is that the references are listed alphabetically from A to Z by the last name of the first author. So you want to focus on who the first author is for that particular work and then look at their last name and alphabetize based on that. The references are double-spaced, as you likely know, and have a hanging indent. I think you already know that. And the format for the references differ by the type of work that you're citing. And we'll look at a couple of examples. Now, the awesome thing about this is that you already know how to do these two. Hooray! Yay for learning! Isn't learning wonderful? And so we're going to focus on the other two elements of this list. So let's talk about alphabetical listing of the references. And so let's say you had this citation and this citation that you had cited and you wanted to put them in the reference list. Can you tell which work should go first and then which work should go next? If you said, by all means, put Cole first because that comes before Maston, then you're absolutely right. And so your references list will look like this. Now, this is just a review in terms of double spacing. You remember that in Word, you go to the paragraph area of the Home tab and then select the line spacing. And so you could do this to do the double spacing or go to line spacing options. And then you can, of course, go to your trusty hanging indent option. Now, as I mentioned before, the format of your references depends on the type of work you're citing. And so here is an example of what a journal article would look like when cited. Not that this is a realistic citation because we don't hopefully have work that's author, author, author. But here is an example of 3 author citation, and you want to pay attention to all the little details. Now you may be wondering, what's this? So the XX is really the volume number for that journal article, and then what goes in the parentheses is the issue number. And so most of the time the journals will make it clear which one is the volume number and then which one is the issue number. And so volume number oftentimes might correspond to, say, a year that the journal is being published in. And so you have like volume 1 for the first year that it's in publication, volume 2, and so on. And then the issue number is within that particular volume. Which issue is it? So maybe if it's a quarterly journal and the volumes go up by a year, then maybe there are 4 issue numbers that you could choose from within a particular volume. And so you want to include both types of information in your reference. Now, as picky as APA style is, you want to make sure to watch for punctuation, spacing, italics, everything. So many details. Now you may be thinking, now that's just too many details for me. Well, fear not. Let me give you some of the rundown of the features that you want to pay attention to when you're looking at, let's say, an APA style manual or any of the resources that you may have from Canvas and trying to figure out how to format your references. Now, once again, like the in-text citations, you use 1 space in between elements, and so you want to be careful how many spaces you use. Now, also think about capitalization. And so for certain elements of a reference, you may notice that every major word is capitalized. Whereas, for example, for article titles or book titles, only the first word is capitalized. Also pay attention to what's italicized. And so, for example, in the case of a journal article, the volume number is actually italicized, but not the issue number. And so the volume number is italicized and the name of the journal is also italicized. In a book reference, you will see later on that the book title itself is italicized. Of course, punctuation, a very big deal for APA style, and also lots to pay attention to. And so if you think about commas, commas are used between the authors and after the journal title and issue number. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, so you want to make sure to look at the actual manual or the resources you have and make sure to pay attention to where the commas go. I guess what I'm trying to say is to pay attention to these things. Periods also, again, happens after the year. This is something that's easy to miss. So there's a period after the year in a reference, after initials, after page numbers, but nothing after the DOI. So if your reference ends with a DOI or digital object identifier, then you can just ignore the period and let it just stay there. Nothing there after the DOI. So here's one translation. And so this is the call article that you saw, and you wanted to convert that to reference. Ta-da! So this is what it looks like in AP 7th style. And so you want to notice where the spacing is, where the periods go, what's capitalized and what's not. Again, article. Title is not capitalized except for the first words, but the journal title is always capitalized major words. Italicized, /volume number, and so on, period at the end of page numbers. And then this is a DOI format. So https://doi.org/ and then the DOI number, and nothing at the end. So I would encourage you to take a look at this slide and additional resources posted on Canvas for examples of how to format references, especially for peer-reviewed journal articles, which will probably be the most common form of reference that you will cite. And you will want to cite at least a couple of peer-reviewed journal articles in your poster as well. And so do get used to this format and do look at examples and ask any questions you may have. Now, as we get into it, though, there are a couple of unusual cases I wanted to share with you. One is what is called advanced online publication. And what that means is when journals accept the paper for publication, they often will post them online for the world to see before they can assign volume, issue, and page numbers to it. And so oftentimes they'll be designated as online first publication or so on. You may also have unusual page numbers like 1 through something, which is not common, though they do exist. And so let's take a look at a real life example here. And so here's a real life example of an advanced online publication. And in this case, when you go to the journal article, you can see that the article is designated as online first. So that's a pretty good sign that it's an advanced online publication. But the biggest tell is that there is no volume or issue or page number associated with that article. And so if you open up that article, it also has no volume, issue, page numbers associated with it. Sometimes journals will assign something like, page numbers starting at 1. But one way to check is to go to the journal website if you're unsure about whether that's a typical practice for that journal. Would be to go to that journal website and maybe look at a current issue or a recent issue that has kind of a typical designation, not just the online or online first or advanced online publications. You can see that this journal will assign volume and issue numbers along with page numbers. And so once you know that that's the journal's practice, then when you go and take a look at an online first article, you will notice that it's still waiting for that volume or issue or page numbers to be assigned. And so that is a good time to use that advanced online publication format. And so coming back to PowerPoint, you will notice that instead of volume number, page number, and so on, you just would write advanced online publication, not italicized, only advanced is capitalized, and then put a period in lieu of that information. Articles being published in the last maybe 2 years or so often will have this issue. Another format to pay attention to is when journal articles have these weird numbers, article numbers or e-locators instead of page numbers. And that's okay, but you will want to follow this particular format where if there's no page number, then you would just write down the information like this. So in this case, it has an article number, so it would be like article with an A capitalized and then the article number instead of pages. And so this is another unusual case that you might come across, especially in this day and age where a lot of the articles are being published online. A couple of other commonly occurring reference types. Just wanted to show you some examples. Here's one for the book. And so you will notice that the title of the book is italicized and only the first word is capitalized. So do keep that in mind. And then there's the publisher name here. If the book has a DOI, then do mention that as well. Here are some examples of dissertations and theses as they're listed in the references list. I would encourage you to take a look at these examples and think about what matches best to the resource that you have that you wanted to cite, and then following the conventions that are shown here. I would also encourage you in all of these cases to refer to APA-style resources that are posted on Canvas, because they will have a lot of useful information examples for you, including these two guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We're happy to help as well. All right, so you're now a complete whiz at APA-style citations and references. But of course, as with any good athlete, it's good to practice and get more comfortable with these skills. And so let's go ahead and give it a try in Canvas. And so I'll talk to you soon. Take care and have a wonderful rest of the week. Look forward to talking to you soon. Adios.